groovy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Review Scourge, where we dig it up, watch it, tell you about it, and then bury it forever. Subscribe if you haven't already, and see what I review next. Today, we continue with part 3 of our horror hospital genre with the 1989 video rental store classic, The Dead Pit. The Dead Pit was written in 3 weeks and was filmed on an estimated budget of $350,000 in the famous Agnew's Development Center in Santa Clara, California, which was once a functioning state mental hospital inhabited by some of California's most violent patients and the criminally insane. This is also the same location where One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson was filmed, and Green Day's Basket Case music video was shot for MTV. The film released straight to video and was distributed by Imperial Entertainment, where the VHS box featured a plastic relief cover that had flashing green LED eyes on a zombie. The film's villain actually had red eyes. Maybe red LEDs cost more to make. Who knows? The cover art had several different versions, even with a completely different woman featured on the cover. The original content had a few minutes scrubbed, though, in order to receive an R rating in the US, mainly because of this scene, which can be found on the Blu-ray release and, of course, in this video you're watching now. Hey, this channel isn't called Review Scourge for nothing, folks. Alright, let's head on over to the breakdown portion where I go through the film scene by painful scene. Spoiler alerts ahead. The film starts out at a state institute for the mentally ill. State hospital would have done nicely on this sign here. It's a bit wordy, but oh well. Where we are greeted by some of the patients.
Doc, hold my calls, please.
This guy must be important. Here we see a nice exterior shot of the main focus of the film. Although it's never really called anything specific in the film, I will just refer to it in this video as the clock tower. Dr. Swan on the left is telling Dr. Ramsey on the right he's not covering for his ass anymore, where Dr. Ramsey says this confidently.
Are you going to stop me, Gerald?
Screams are heard down the hall. A balding patient freaks out because Ramsey is on the scene. I have a feeling he's the bad guy. Oh yeah, definitely the bad guy. Fun fact here, lobotomies are no longer performed and have been largely replaced with medications. Ramsey carries away the patient. Dr. Swan sees this and takes matters into his own hands. Wow, things are really ramping up quick. Swan follows the trail of blood. Ramsey's clumsy ass left behind. Maybe he should have wrapped that guy's head in a plastic bag to have prevented all this. Right to a dead end. Get it? Dead end? Okay guys, no more cheesy jokes. Which is really a hidden door that leads to a long spiral staircase illuminated with green ominous light to naturally indicate, don't go the fuck down there. Swan finds a dungeon, courtesy of Party City decorations, and discovers the patient's body sprawled on the table, covered in ritualistic markings, which are never explained in the film. Sorry to spoil that part, but isn't that why you're watching this video in the first place? The patient now has a convertible top. Maybe this is cooler for the summertime. You're a doctor, for God's sake. Get it together. We see a 50-gallon drum of formaldehyde. Fun fact, formaldehyde's chemical formula is CH2O and is highly flammable. Killer Doc Ramsey walks in. Swan tells Ramsey, "You're supposed to be saving lives." Ramsey clearly doesn't give a shit.
I've done life. Now I'm doing death.
You fucking maniac!
Bingo! Swan whips out his piece. Ramsey gets cocky.
You can't kill me.
And Swan smokes his ass where he rests with his experiments. Now we finally see the title screen, which looks like some shit on Pee-wee's Playhouse, honestly. Get out of here, Pee-wee. Swan nails the door shut and plasters it. This segment was brought to you by Home Depot. 20 years later, we see a woman riding in what appears to be an institutional vehicle of sorts. Yep, institutional all right, where she is admitted by Nurse Ratched.
You next.
Actually, her name is Nurse Kiger. Weird name. We'll just stick with Nurse Ratched. Things then get shaky.
I told them it was getting
Real shaky. Which breaks that shitty seal on the door apart. 20-year-older Dr. Swan approaches Jane Doe, where they sing a song together, and Jane gets sedated. Damn. Jane Doe sees the killer Doc and wakes from a dream. Oh, and I'm not making up her name here. Really, it's Jane Doe. Jane visits Swan to discuss her problem. Swan has his diagnosis now.
Let's talk about amnesia. See, we can trigger core memories, which can eventually lead to partial or even total recall.
Total recall, huh? We all know how that shit ended. Jane explains her memories were, removed, for lack of better words.
And my head was open. And then my memories were cut out.
Just like that. Jane takes a walk around the grounds to chill out, where an orderly stares at her ass. Someone needs a manicure. Jane then makes her way to the crazy convention.
Do you know where my Catman is?
What the hell did she just say? Nurse Robbins is nosy and asks how the session went with Dr. Swan. Ever heard of patient confidentiality, Nurse Robbins? And we meet Christian Myers, another patient. Jane introduces herself in a hokey way.
I call myself Jane Doe.
Where Nurse Ratched appears and breaks up the fun. Myers lets Jane know she isn't the only crazy one here.
I've been known to get crazy from time to time.
Myers? Crazy?
I like to blow things up.
Okay. Turns out Myers was in the military as a demolitions expert. Maybe he should have started with that instead. Jane sees Killer Doc right outside the window, and a nun goes crazy. Well, she's already crazy.
Mr. Clare, what you doing? Holding a prayer meeting without us?
Jane is now losing it. Poor Jane. Jane is wearing very little clothing. Must be a dream sequence. She sees a silhouette of Nurse Ratched and runs to the door. You're welcome, gentlemen. She opens the door, where Nurse Ratched is trying to figure out what got stuck in her teeth at lunch. Jane is now tied up, and Nurse Ratched wants a wet t-shirt contest, where the water pressure is just way too high. You're welcome again, gentlemen. Jane awakens from her dream. Again. Creepy hands from earlier find gloves that, well, almost fit. Don't forget the ring. Probably an important plot point. Jane heads down the hall. Must be hot in that hospital. Hey, I'm not complaining. And into a bathroom to freshen up. Why does she have to walk so far for a sink in a hospital? I mean, when you go to a hospital, there's sinks everywhere. Whatever. Dr. Creepy Gloves goes to Jane's room. Just missed her. Nurse Robbins walks right into Killer Doc. He performs another on-site lobotomy, where his eyes glow. Or do they? Jane walks back to her room. Now I'm staring at her ass. And falls back asleep. The next day, Jane starts hypnotherapy, with what appears to be nothing more than a stethoscope dangling from a laboratory stand. I guess the effects crew phoned it in on this one. Dr. Swan wants to tap into her memories of being a child, where she spazzes out and reveals her real name.
Sarah? Sarah!
No!
Dr. Swan snaps her out of it, where we understand something.
It seems your mother might have taken you away from your father at a very early age.
Nurse Ratched interrupts again. God, she has a knack for this shit, doesn't she? A patient named Bud has had enough of the orderly's shit and is holding a scalpel to his neck, but Bud is thrown to the floor, and he has the piss beaten out of him. Dr. Swan steps in and orders him up a straitjacket and a padded cell, stat.
Down! You're all going down! No!
Maybe he does have a point. Crazy nun from earlier performs an exorcism on the scalpel.
Sunday!
Killer Doc is now waving at Jane from afar. Hello. But Jane isn't having that shit. Killer Doc pays Bud a visit, where his eyes are all aglow. The commotion sends the orderly into the room, where he goes after Bud.
Damn.
A lengthy chase takes him to the clock tower building, which is abandoned. The same building that Jane keeps staring at. Something about that building. Orderly breaks into the building and hears Bud in the dentist office. Yeah, a dentist office. Very specific, I know. Where he sees Bud's feet and finds Bud's body. The orderly hauls ass, as many characters in horror movies do at this point. Cuts his arm on the window he broke earlier. And finds Nurse Robbins, who has honestly looked better. Killer Doc pops in, strangles orderly, and Jane wakes up again. Reoccurring theme here, folks. Pay attention. Killer Doc prides himself on his work.
I'm the head surgeon here.
Jane disapproves and runs again. Fun fact, cardio is one of the best forms of exercise you can do and requires little to any clothing. Apparently. Again, I'm not complaining. She falls on the floor in front of the nurse, sees Killer Doc closing in, and is given a sedative. Wash, rinse, and repeat. Myers gets in trouble.
Take Myers downstairs and make sure the duty nurse is aware that he's having a hard day.
Hard day, huh? Code for give him more meds and a damn beating, probably. Jane is back at Dr. Swan's office.
I need help.
Yeah, no shit. I think I'll need some after this film, too. Jane says person who stole her memory from earlier session was actually the Killer Doc she sees in her dreams.
I'd like to put you under hypnosis again.
Enough with the hypnosis. While under hypnosis, Jane sees Killer Doc again, where she describes Killer Doc to Dr. Swan.
He smells like death, like formaldehyde.
Uh-oh. Swan is freaking out as he remembers what he did to Dr. Ramsey, aka Killer Doc, at the beginning of this film, and decides to self-medicate. This segment is brought to you by Johnny Walker Red. Cheap, but effective. Jane seeks Myers for help on escaping the facility. Myers makes a squinty face. Jane explains Killer Doc from her dreams. And Crazy Nun performs free exorcisms. Later that night, Jane is given her meds, where she promptly spits them out. And Myers shows up. They slip past the inept orderly, and Myers pulls out a piece of his bed frame. You know, as a tool. A real MacGyver here. And pries off the lock. See what I mean? Myers' sneaking skills obviously aren't as good as his lockpicking skills, and he gets caught. Jane leaves his ass behind and enters the abandoned clock tower, where the graffiti is inviting. Jane meets Nurse Robbins inside. But wait, wasn't she dead? Okay, now I'm confused. See Jane run? Run, Jane, run. Jane finds Nurse Robbins.
Terrible things are happening here.
And comes face to face with Killer Doc, where you can clearly see his bullet wound as a prosthetic. They should have blended it a little bit better. Jane runs, hides, and finds Bud's body. She covers her mouth to stifle her scream. Doc closes in, grabs Jane. Jane kicks free. She runs some more. Man, I'm exhausted. Jane fucks up. And ends up in the dungeon. Myers fakes an illness and clubs John Denver over the head. Killer Doc summons the dead from the pit. Myers arrives at the abandoned building. The dead avoid Jane and make a beeline straight for the stairs to escape. Myers finds Jane and somehow avoids the horde of zombies that were exiting the only way into this room. Yeah. The zombies waltz right past two cops chatting about donuts and then make their move. Hey, look what I found, guys. A brain. Swan has the right idea. Pills too, huh? Bud the zombie. No, not Bub. Bud. And not that Bud either. Attacks Myers. Myers uses his trusty bed frame piece to beat the shit out of Bud. Sorry, Bud. Nurse Ratched hears a noise and investigates, where she finds Nurse Robbins, who really knows how to get around this flick, apparently. Well, she's done. While Myers and Jane take a breather, a few yards away from the zombie horde, I might add. Not very smart. Dr. Swan awakes from his drunken stupor and wants to know what the hell's going on, and decides to investigate himself, the same room Nurse Ratched did a few seconds ago. Dr. Swan sees a bloodbath, no pun intended, and realizes shit's getting real at this point. He runs. John Denver lookalike orderly gets mauled by flesh nibblers. Dr. Swan's asshole puckers a bit. Myers and Jane make it to Dr. Swan's office, where he's contemplating another drink. Probably. Jane gets pissed when she finds out Swan knew about Killer Doc all along. A little late for that. Dr. Swan explains Killer Doc's motive.
He was doing research here into the organic causes of insanity. He seemed seduced by death.
But Myers isn't buying all that shit. So Swan whips out his piece again. Only guy in this movie to brandish a gun so far. Swan decides to go after Killer Doc himself and blast his way through the zombie horde right outside the door. The loonies are all now zombies. Great. And that crazy nun is performing another exorcism, or prayer, or whatever the hell you want to call it. She flicks some holy water at Art the Clown, where it reacts immediately. Very immediately. Myers likes what he sees and wants more holy water because he thought that shit was cool. I gotta admit, so did I. The nun gives a word of advice.
The desecrated grounds must be made holy.
Myers tells Jane that they need to holify the water tower to flood the dungeon. Yeah, this water tower. Myers verifies that this can be done.
Can you bless all the water in that tower, sister?
Nun says, hell yeah, I can do that shit. Swan is in the dungeon, where we are right back to the opening scene of the film again. I have a sneaking suspicion things will be slightly different this time. Yep, I was right. Killer Doc straps Swan's ass to the table. Nun blesses a bedpan. Wait, whoa. No, sister, you can't bless piss. It has to be water. Close enough, I guess. Myers really wants to blow some shit up.
If we can get to the machine shops near the tower, I should be able to find enough material to make a bomb.
Killer Doc operates on Swan. Team finds the electric shop. Myers builds a bomb to drop the water tower. Jane finds a gun. Myers needs the shells. Killer takes a little too much off the top. That was funny, wasn't it? Nun stops praying over bedpans and starts praying over the water tower. Myers and Jane get attacked by a zombie that somehow or another managed to get into the building. Jane douses that zombie with a bag of holy water. Better than carrying it in a bedpan, honestly. And we have another meltdown. Myers has a final word.
Come on. We've got a water balloon to drop on these assholes.
And Swan auditions for the new Hellraiser movie. Myers climbs the water tower. Jane leaves his ass behind. Again. Zombies swarm the water tower. Jane runs into Killer Doc again. And, of course, Dr. Swan. Well, whatever's left of him anyways. Killer Doc chases Jane. Zombies climb water tower. Jane runs back to where the nun was. Myers finally gets his shitty lighter to work and lights the damn fuse on the bomb. The nun is really Killer Doc. Jane has flashbacks where we see Killer Doc as really her father. Who really didn't see this one coming? Check out those eyebrows. Myers wrestles with Zombie while fuse is burning. Myers celebrates a little too soon. He's done. Then we see a model of the hospital get flooded, where the water makes its way into the pit. Jane gets a front row seat to her father's gruesome death. Oh well. Killer Doc deflates like a balloon. Jane puts her dad's ring on. And roll credits. Man, that was long. Let's head over to the review. Want a crazy film with lots of crazy people in it, literally. The plot had a few holes, like when we see the formaldehyde barrel down in the basement. I mentioned earlier that formaldehyde is extremely flammable. Maybe the director should have blown that building up with that barrel of formaldehyde instead of flooding it with holy water. I would have loved to have seen that. The special effects were practical, which is a plus this day and age when done correctly. We saw clearly some of the makeup was subpar, which honestly adds to the charm of films like this. Just take a look at this brain, for example. The acting was good. I thought the dialogue was on par and flowed nicely for such a silly plot, especially near the end when things went off the rail. Lighting was clear for the most part, with darkly lit scenes being clear enough to see the cast members' faces, even outdoors. Good lighting makes for a good film. One thing I noticed about this film was its similarity to X-Ray, another film which I already reviewed on this channel, like the scene where the patient spits out the medication. Almost the same scene, right? Even the actresses look very similar. It's possible the director was borrowing small things or making nods to other films of the genre, as many directors do this often. In summary, The Dead Pit was worth the watch, even worth collecting if you love horror and appreciate practical effects. The Blu-ray version of the film is the best way to watch it in its full glory with all the scenes left in. Why anybody would want to watch a horror movie with cut footage is beyond me. I'm going to give this film 3.5 out of a possible 5 skulls. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't the worst I had ever seen either. Thanks for dropping by the channel. Until next time.